Well, hello there, my little darlings, and welcome back to another little episode of the Warframes. And today, as you can see on the screen, we are looking at Warframes that are also loot goblins. And I'm talking about this more for newer players because, as I record this, the Warframe 1999, I said it, yay, update is due to come out. And I saw that you have to have done pretty much all of the quests, all the way up to the Lotus Eaters to be able to do it. And I thought of all the people that haven't done those quests, and I thought of all the newer players or returning players, and I thought, do you know what? I'm also going to make content for you. Yes, I am, because we can't forget about you. No, we cannot. And what with the Prime Resurgence coming out, you may be wondering where to get all the loots and stuff from. So I'm going to go over a few of the places where you get certain kind of rarer loots. But as you can see, the Prime Resurgence started on December the 12th and it runs all the way through to February the 6th next year, 2025, and then there's like a little mop-up session in case you miss any of these primes. But generally in Warframe, you need loot, okay? And to do that, you can go about it as a normal person and just go to different missions and obtain loot by just doing the missions, or you can fast track it a bit, and there are multiple ways you can do that. We're talking resource boosters that you buy for plat, resource drop chance blessings that you get from the relay from MR30s and above. You can also boost your loot with modding certain Warframes and also taking certain Warframes for their passives, and also companions. But in this episode we're going to look at some of the Warframes that are just going to help you on your way to being a loot goblin. Now, I'm trying to keep in mind that this might be for newer players, so I'm going to show you where to get these loot goblin Warframes, and I'm going to show you where to get some of the resources for them, and then hopefully in the meantime it'll help you gather resources for your primed objects. And primed objects are actually weirdly sometimes easier to get hold of and build than their original non-primed counterparts. I know, who'd have thunk it? And before we go into it, let's just talk a moment about the Discord. It has grown slightly and you are more than welcome to join. New players, older players, experienced players, returning players, and also people that don't just play Warframe are all over there gathering, playing, excited for the Prime Resurgence and the updates that are coming out. And if this video or any of my other videos tickle you and your fancy, could you tickle me and my like button, my sub button, or my comments? You know, just come and say hi. Come and interact with me. It's the easiest way to show a teeny tiny bit of support. Anyway, let's get in to some loot goblin Warframes. And let's look first at our beloved Cora. This is actually my Cora Prime, and Cora Prime is vaulted at the moment, but it is Cora's Pilfering Strangledome augment mod that we're interested in. You add this augment mod to her mod loadout configuration, and when you pop her Strangledome ability, that Strangledome, once it's got enemies inside it and they die, will drop maybe 65% chance of dropping additional loot, and this is what makes her a prized loot goblin Warframe. And her loot dropping will stack with others. It plays well with others, it mixes well with others, and we'll have a look at those later as we go through this video. And where would you get the augment mod? Well, you can buy it from other players, you can trade it for things from other players. You don't have to pay plat if they're happy to trade something else with you. You can come to my Discord and one of us lovely folks will get you one, because it costs 25,000 standing from here. It is Steel Meridian, one of the 6 syndicates available to me to rank up with, and of course it does require ranking up, so it can be quite a time investment. At the beginning of the game you might not be worrying too much about it, but if you can get hold of that Pilfering Strangledome or play alongside a player that has Cora with a Pilfering Strangledome, that will boost up your loot, and it stacks, like I said, with others. Now, where would you get Cora from if you can't get Cora Prime? Well, Cora, back in my day, and still is available from Sanctuary Onslaught, and you have access to Sanctuary Onslaught from Cephalon Samaras once you have done the new strange quest. So working your way through the quests and the junctions on the star chart, very important when you're new to the game. The other place I believe people can get Cora from now, not available back in my day, is the Duviri circuit. Once it's available to choose, you can go and choose it from the circuit. Work your magic over there. I'm not a circuit expert, so you know you're going to have to figure that out for yourselves. You probably already have. Just go for it and tell me how, like, you know, results may vary, but tell me how you're getting on with that. And let's not forget, with all of your Warframe blueprints, they don't come pre-built. No. You're going to need components for them. So we'll just have a brief look at the components you'll need on the screen for Cora. And then later on, we're going to have a quick look at where to get some of the rarer stuff. So Kavat genetic codes, we'll have a look where to get those from. Quacker, Spinal Claws, Iridite, Rubido, things like that. They're kind of available on the plains of Eidolon. Salvage, polymer bundles across the star chart, alloy plate. You're going to be picking circuits and ferrite up as you go through. Orokin cells, a bit more specialized. We'll have a look at the best place to get it. Kind of when you're newer to the game, you might not have unlocked a huge amount of the star chart. If you can get up to, I believe it's Ceres, which is, it goes Earth, Mars, Ceres, then work your way through Ceres. There is a good little survival there with a resource drop chance, a booster like built into the mission, and that really does help with Orokin cells. We'll get into that in a minute though. And before we look at the next Warframe that can boost your loot, I just want to say, when you're new to the game, I know there's this sort of FOMO feeling of I just need to blast my way through the game, blaze through the quests, not paying attention to anything and just get everything. But if you don't actually play the game and you don't repeat some of the missions and go back and start grinding them out, like this is IO defense on Jupiter, for instance, you get a lot of neural sensors and hexen on here. You're just not going to build up the components you need, and then when you do need them, it's gonna feel like a real grind. It's gonna feel quite like, oh god. It's, you know, takes the fun out of it. So my advice is just go and murder some stuff. Do you know what I mean? I would always go and do the Gabby on Ceres as like a chill out after my hard day at work, and I would just do like 30 or 40 minutes of murdering, and I would pick up a ton of resources with or without loot boosters. Do you know what I'm saying? Oh look, there's a Necros. Let's have a look at him next, shall we? Ah, the beautiful Lord of the Dead. This happens to be my Necros Prime, but Necros normal, non-primed, will do. The third ability is what we're interested in, Desecrate. You pop it and it keeps running until you run out of energy, and it forces fallen enemies around you to drop additional loot. And if you chop them up with a blade, I run him often with something like a Nakana, and it chops them in half, then that forces even more loot to potentially drop. And drop that it does. And it also stacks with things like Cora's Pilfering Strangledome. So if you're in a defense, you know, you haven't got a huge amount of range on your Necros, that's perfect. Just go and Strangle Dome them with your fellow Cora player, and then desecrate the heck out of them with your Necros ability, and all of a sudden you've got tons of loot. You know what I mean? Loads of stuff dropping. Now, where do we get normal Necros from? Now, you can get him completely, all of his blueprints, including the main one, actually, from the Duviri circuit. Or if you fancy doing it the old-fashioned way, you go to Deimos, if you can reach it. Do the Lephantis assassination on Magnesidium, and just run that over and over until all the blueprints drop. However, if you're not going Duviri, you have to buy the main Necros blueprint from the market in your orbiter. I'm pretty sure it costs like something stupid like 100,000 credits. It's quite expensive. One of the most expensive main blueprints, as I recall. If you can't be bothered to do the Duviri circuit, which I never had available to me, but I can't stand Duviri, so I'm actually okay with it. Okay, you know what I'm saying though. So yeah, that's how you get Necros. And then what we need to think about are what you need to build those blueprints once you've got them. So here are the components you're going to need to build the three various blueprints, plus the main one at the top there. Orokin cells. You're going to need so many of them in the game, just saying. Neural sensors are a bit harder to get hold of. Control modules. Anything that's got a low number for building, you might feel like that's harder to get hold of. The higher numbers are usually stuff that drops in abundance, but some of them are around specific star chart nodes onwards, like plastids, etc. So we'll have a look at those all at the end, like where they might be available to you if you're newer to the game, if you're not like a super steel path high level person. And if you are, then why are you watching this? You should know all this by now. I'm joking, you're more than welcome to be here. And now we're going to look at our watery friend Hydroid with his happy slappy tentacles, and he has an augment mod as well which boosts loot. Look how that works. 100% chance at additional drops. Pilfering Swarm. Once you pop his happy slappy tentacles, they will, once they're holding on to enemies, I don't know if there's a specific thing that the enemies have actually got to die in his tentacles, I'm not sure. All I know is when I pop them, I get more loot, especially if I've got this Pilfering Swarm Augment mod. Again, bought for 25,000 standing from Cephalon, Suda or New Loka Syndicate, or from other players. And you get normal Hydroid, probably from the circuit. Yeah, that's right. Or Oro, Assassination on Earth. Easily available. It can be quite tricky at the beginning of the game, but again, come to my Discord and we'll help you get through it, unless you want to go and get it from the Duviri circuit. But I remember when I first started this game and I was not a good player, I got stuck on there. So I never actually got Hydroid right at the beginning. It took me a long time to get this Warframe because I never wanted to go back to the horror that was this assassination. And now I blaze through it. So if you need some help, again, come to the Discord and we'll get you a bit of Hydroid action, or go and run that circuit if it's available to you. Now, I love me a bit of Hydroid and his happy slappy tentacles. It's like my secret little happy place. I don't use him a huge amount, but ooh, I wish I could. There's something really satisfying about the water bubbly wobbly sound effects. Anyway, these are the components we're going to need for Hydroid. And as you can see, we need Argon Crystals, and these can only be got from one place on the star chart. And we want Gallium. These are new items that we haven't seen previously in this video. And more Orokin Cells, obviously. And you're going to need a ton of credits to build these. They're 15,000 each to build and 25,000 for the main one. I know, right? So freaking greedy. Now, before I move on to some other Loot Goblin Warframes that just aren't as good, but they still do boost loot to a degree, I just wanted to say Hydroid, Necros and Korra are my 3 go-to Loot Goblin Warframes. However, I know some people in the comments are already going to be saying, what about the companions, Coffee? Obviously, they boost your loot. You're missing out on a whole thing here. Yes, I understand that. I know, I already know about the companions, but I want to do a separate video on those so we don't get bogged down in too much info in one place, so that there's separate little videos you can like click backwards and forwards between. And also, I actually need to relearn some stuff about the companions since they've upgraded them and improved them, and they've changed a few of the mods around, etc. I haven't got my head around all that yet because obviously I'm not desperate for the loot myself personally, but sometimes I like to just pop on a Hydroid and go to a low level mission where I know new players might be and just treat them to some extra loot. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm nice like that, and so should you be. And before we look at these other Warframes and also the components, look at all the extra mods I got. Now, these extra mods soon build up. Ooh, and mutagen samples. Those are so useful from Deimos. I sell my spare mods from my inventory mod station in my orbiter for endo and or credits, depending what I needed at the time as I was going through the game. It was always endo in the end because you can never have enough endos. But there were times where I was desperate for credits, so I would sell a chunk of mods that I collected doing missions like this for credits, or I would just sell spare stuff or doubled up stuff from my inventory for credits. And I don't know if you knew this, but Atlas, our chonky boy Atlas, has an augment mod which links to his petrify ability, which boosts the loot. Now, it's not a huge boost, which is why we wouldn't use him in the first instance, but if it was the only thing you had access to, then go for it. The augment mod, Orgaze, is 25,000 standing with one of the syndicates, or 2 of those syndicates that we saw earlier, and it's linked to his petrify ability. Now, his petrify ability is the thing that gets helminthed off him, and if you don't know what I'm talking about with helminths, I have done a helminth video. Once you get your helminth, you can put your original non-primed Warframes into it, and it'll take one of their abilities off them. You lose the Warframe permanently, but you keep that one ability, and you can put it on any other Warframe of your choosing. So if you have a primed version, they always say just keep hold of your original versions. Not out of sentimental love, but because you want to feed them to your helmet. Okay, like a good tenno. But if you were interested in getting Atlas, you can get him, of course, from the circuit if he's available on Duviri, and you can also get him after doing the Jordus Precept quest. You get the main blueprint from doing that, but you can then also do the Jordus Golem Assassination on Eris, and that's the cycle where you would go and get, hopefully, the blueprints for Atlas, and these are his components. And of course he needs Argon Crystals, but he also needs Cryotic, so we're going to have a look at where to get these things shortly, but there are just a couple more Warframes, bear with me. And another loot Warframe is Ivara. Not my top pick at all. She's very useful for certain niche things in the game, for me. And her ability Prowl is where you can potentially boost your loot. She basically goes around invisible stealing loot from enemies. She's like a pickpocket. And the original Avara skin was actually based on a poisonous tree frog. I found out when I was researching this video. I know, I didn't know that either. And you can get normal Avara, I believe, from the Duviri circuit, but also from these various spy missions in the game. Not specific spy missions, but kind of just go to a spy mission. And you have to complete all 3 spy points successfully to get to the C rotation, which is where her blueprints potentially will drop from. It's quite the faff, and I never actually really did it in game myself. I think I bought Ivara. I didn't get her from Duviri, and I don't think I actually... Well, maybe I ground out her blueprints on the second playthrough on the spy missions. Who knows? Anyway, I want to talk briefly about Wukong. Now, Wukong is not really a loot goblin warframe, but I want to just briefly mention his passive in case you didn't know about it. So if you didn't know, when you use Wukong, if you die in mission up to 3 times, he will res himself and use a mastered survival technique, right? There's 5 to choose from, so you will get one of those 5 3 times, and one of them is Monkey Luck, which means extra loot drops for 60 seconds. Now, you obviously can't use Wukong as a loot goblin warframe, but if you wanted to get Wukong, just be aware that A, he's brilliant at resing himself. You don't even have to worry about it. You've got 3 options, 3 times in each mission for him to just bring himself back to life and not need to be resed. Amazeballs. And also, one of those times, he may just bring you Monkey Luck extra loot. You know, it's just a little bonus. Do you know what I'm saying? And if you want Wukong, you don't have him, go to your friendly clan dojo, look for the Tenno lab, and you can replicate the blueprints for him there. And as you can see, these are the components, and it's a lot. Argon Crystals, Nitain Extract, quite a lot of that to build him, a lot of plasters and a lot of salvage. So they're kind of implying that he's kind of, you know, component heavy, but worth it maybe, possibly. And this isn't a loot warframe at all, but if you're near the beginning of the game and you can get hold of this augment mod, Mag, who you can choose to start the game with, actually has an ability called Pull. And with that, you can get an augment mod called Greedy Pull. And it's just a vacuum, essentially. I've never actually tried it out to see if it's more effective than vacuum on your sentinels, or it sucks up all of those delicious loots towards you. So if you are in a mission with a Necros and a Korra, or somebody else who's loot goblining in their way through the game, your Mag Greedy Pull will just suck all those goodies towards you without having to run around, and that will maybe save a slot on your companion for the vacuum mod. I don't know, try it out. Don't know if anybody ever uses it, let me know. Might be good for starting the game with though, if you can get hold of that augment mod. You never know. And now let's look at these resources. So the first thing you need to know is about extractors. You can buy an extractor blueprint from the market for 50,000 credits, and it's reusable. So you can build multiple extractors. And once you have unlocked all the nodes on a planet, it will give you an option to deploy an extractor. And when you first start the game, you can only deploy one of these extractors, and it works its way up to 3. I think there's a way of having multiples above 3, and that's like the Titan extractor, the extractor Prime, which I don't have. But as you can see, I do have many extractors because I built many from my one blueprint. And the reason I wanted many is because I want to run them constantly once they've picked up their resources and they have health. So their health diminishes when they're extracting. And if you keep using them, they'll be destroyed and you have to rebuild them. However, if you cycle through them, say it's on 80%, don't use that one, use one that's 100%, they'll kind of replenish their health. They'll heal themselves magically. So you can carry on using them as long as you don't use them constantly. And the other useful thing is you can hover over the planets and just see where the resources are that you need, and then maybe go and do some missions. You know, the Hexen in there, the neural sensors on Jupiter, it's all very useful, but you also might get them from your extraction. So let's look at Argon Crystals. You need to go to the Void, and of course when you first start the game you may not have had access to the Void, you may not have unlocked your star chart there. I believe you can get a taxi there from people that have unlocked it, because it is the only place on the star chart that you can get Argon Crystals. And when you get into the Void, these missions, my advice is have a mooch, have a run around. As you can see, there's a lot of secret areas, and it's not just Argon Crystals we're looking for, it's just all the resources here, and you're going to pick up a ton of them if you wander around. And if you bring one of your little loot goblin warframes, more's the better. Necros is great because obviously he desecrates enemies as we go. You don't need to be sort of static in one place like Hydroid's Happy Slappy Tentacles and Korra's Strangledown. Now, Argon Crystals do decay, so you know if you don't have a helmet to feed them into, you're just going to lose them. That's absolutely fine. Just once you've got your Argon Crystals, build whatever it is that you need to build with them ASAP. And I mean, the void isn't going anywhere, so you can just come back and farm some more. And sometimes you'll get lucky and sometimes you won't. And if you have a resource booster as a login, or a resource drop chance blessing from a relay, from a kindly MR30 and above, you may get 2 Argon Crystals drop. And I suggested wandering around because, as you can see in this very short amount of footage, there's lots of secret areas on the void, tons. A ton of them if you care to have a mooch. If you're brave enough, once you've unlocked the void, you can just come solo and take your time and have a really good wander. But I always suggest wandering when you're looking for things like Argon Crystals and Orokin Cells. Yes, you can stay in one place, but I mean, they drop from potentially enemies, but they will also have their own little outcrops, which you'll find as you run through the mission and just bash stuff up. And next up, and probably most importantly because it's so rare, is Nitain Extract. To build all the non-cosmetic items in the game, as of 2022, I got this from the internet, you need 186 Nitain. So my advice, do your Nightwave axe if you can, do the challenges, and use your creds, your Nightwave creds, to buy Nitain Extract first and foremost. Don't be tempted to get all the other stuff that you see there is just not as important, or like the catalyst can be got elsewhere. They're not as rare. The Nitain Extract does drop from other places, but it is incredibly rare, as you can see. And now let's turn our attention to Kavat genetic codes. We're going to need those to build Cora, our loot goblin warframe, but you will also need them at some point to breed your Kavats. Now you can buy them 5 plat each from the market. You're going to need 10 to breed a Kavat, so it's up to you if you want to spend that plat. You can buy a starter kit for breeding Kavats for, I think it's like 95 plat, or you can learn how to find them on Deimos. The ones on the Plains of Eidolon, they don't count. This is a slain Kavat. On Deimos, unfortunately, if we scan that, we wouldn't have a chance at getting a genetic code. And by chance, I mean, even if you find the Kavats, you've only got a 25% chance of it actually becoming a scanned Kavat genetic code. So you can scan them all you like, but it's an RNG thing. Unfortunately, resource boosters do help. It'll double up the scans, and also depending on the scanner you use, you can get the codex scanner, obviously bought from the market, put that on your gear wheel, or the synthesis scanner from Cephalon Samaris. That's going to cost standing and some investment in time there. But if you can get the widgets for that synthesis scanner, it recharges its scans, and then you also have the cross matrix widget that has a 45% chance to scan the item twice. So i.e. it'll give you 2 genetic codes potentially if the 25% RNG is favouring you. Both scans potentially could drop a code, but both scans could potentially not drop a code for you. So yeah, the vector thread widget also from Cephalon Samaris is useful because it makes the scan happen quicker. And those Kavats, unless you've slowed them down somehow without killing them, are like hissing and scratching and invisible and running around and maybe even fighting the other enemies in the mission. And bestest tip is to take off any companion that might kill things for you. So if I've brought my Helios Prime, I've taken off the weapon that was attached to it, or I would just unequip my companion whilst I'm Kavat hunting. And obviously, as you can see, I've brought Loki because I thought maybe being invisible would help. And Kavats will spawn in on the Deimos tiles set 1+1 per person in the squad, so you can have a maximum of 5 Kavats. And as you can see, that is a Kavat. Now, it was invisible before, and as I came over, it came out of its invisibility, and now it's being attacked by other enemies. And as you can see, I'm frantically trying to scan it with this is my Cephalon Samaris synthesis scanner, not my codex scanner. And I mean, being further away from it does help, but as you can see, it was being beaten up by the enemy, so time is of the essence. If you can slow everyone down, if you have an ability or a squad member that can slow things down for you, pop that ability, as long as it's not killing anything, because once they're dead, you can't get the chance of a genetic code. Now, unfortunately, I didn't get genetic codes from any of the Kavats that I scanned during my time trying to find them for you in the mission, but it was good to sort of show you what they kind of look like. You see a shadow, you start to be familiar with them, and if you've, like, you can see my Helios is kind of scanning things for me. There's another Kavat here. And I thought they spawned in around the vault rooms, you know, the dragon key rooms, the vault doors there, but not necessarily. And they can spawn in more than once in a mission, so just keep chipping away at it. And I would say, if you're really not sure, come to my Discord and we'll either shower you with gifts of Kavat genetic codes, or we'll come to Deimos and try and help you find them. The more people you have in the squad, the more are going to spawn in a mission. The other place you can get them, the Sands of Aneros quest that you buy from Barrow-Ketir, the void trader that comes along once every 2 weeks. If you buy that quest, and you do that quest, make sure you take along a scanner with lots of scans in it, because 50 feral Kavats rock up in that mission. So you have potentially, if you've got the patience, 50 chances at getting a genetic code, and if you've got a resource booster on at the same time, you'll get the 2 if you do get the genetic code to drop for that 25% RNG. So you know, there's ways and means. You don't need a ton of Kavat genetic codes throughout the game. There are only 3 types of Kavat to breed, and obviously you only need a handful of them for Cora. I don't believe you need any to build Cora Prime, but like I said, she's vaulted. So there you go, those are Kavat genetic codes. And let's briefly look at Cryotic in case you're not sure, in case you're new and you're not sure what it is. You're going to need it to build quite a few different things in the game, not just Warframe, so you're going to need a lot of it. And it's got from doing excavation missions. The first one you'll encounter is Everest on Earth, and it doesn't matter where you go in the game or what difficulty excavation mission you do, they will always drop 100 Cryotic per successfully defended extractor round. And you can stay in for as long as you want. It's a round robin kind of mission, so stay for as long as you want, or go as soon as the green extraction button pops up once you've successfully completed the mission. Like I said, you get 100 per round, but it is doubled for resource boosters. So if you happen to have a resource booster, definitely go and get yourself some Cryotic. It can be a bit tedious, and as you can see, we just need to keep the extractor powered up, protected from the enemies, and once it's fully powered, you can boost its shields back up by putting these pods into it that the enemies are dropping. You know, I call it my glowy blue handbag, and it's always good to have them in your hand ready to protect your extractors or move on to the next one while someone defends this one. And don't panic if you do fail an extractor or it is destroyed halfway through its extraction, it'll still give you a percentage of the Cryotic you earned up to a certain point, so you'll still be earning Cryotic, and of course if you have a resource booster, it'll double that up for you at the end. I earned 400-ish on this one. You know, you're going to need quite a few hundreds, thousands. I mean, there's a weapon called the Cyber or Sibia, and that needs 30,000 Cryotic, and I'm pretty sure they created it just to keep us old-timers busy. So have fun with that. So I'm not going to go through every single resource you're ever going to need, but I wanted to talk about Orokin Cells. And as you can see, I'm hovering over the different planets. So Earth and Venus are going to be open to you quite early on in the game. With these extractor lists to show you where you can go and get stuff, because what we're actually interested in is now Orokin Cells, and Orokin Cells are used to build a ton of stuff in this game. You're going to need endless Orokin Cells. Now, as you can see, they're available on Saturn, so you could go and do one of these kind of resource drop chance boosted survivals on Saturn. My go-to choice though is Ceres. Now you can get to Ceres via going Earth, Mars, Ceres. Simple as that. It's not too difficult to get there, and then work your way across the bottom all the way down to Gabby. Survival, that is a plus 35% resource drop chance, and you also get affinity boost there, and also if it's your first mission of the day, you'll get a credit boost as well. And I will go and spend 30 to 40 minutes just literally running around that entire tile set and picking myself up quite a few Orokin Cells. Obviously if you have a resource booster, they also double up. Now they do drop from enemies, but they also have their own little outcrop, which we'll have a look at now. So as you may have seen, I headed to my Gabby survival on Ceres with that resource drop chance. And if we hang around for a moment, we're going to go through this door and find an Orokin Cell array. And isn't it beautiful? It's golden, it's pearlescent, it's shiny, and it dropped me 2 Orokin Cells. Now I believe that's because I've got a resource booster. I'm not sure if it's because of the resource drop chance in this mission. I actually can't remember when I was doing it, but you know, come here, have a wander. Now the thing to note when you do public survivals is you'll often get someone who is also there farming something specifically, and they'll bring a Cora or they'll bring a Hydroid, and they want to be static, they want to be in one place, and they may get a little bit annoyed. And the reason people get annoyed is because when you split up, the spawn-in of the enemies kind of can be disrupted. So one person's getting all the enemies and someone's just sat there twiddling their thumbs with no enemies to drop loot for them. in their Strangledome or their Hydroid Happy Sappy Tentacles. So bear that in mind. Alternatively, you can just come to a Discord like myself or recruitment chat in the game and just say, I want to have a wander around Gabby. Now, what will happen is you'll get several thousand people telling you you're in the wrong place, and they'll try and tax you to Steel Path or all the higher level stuff where more loot drops. But sometimes that's just not realistic for newer players, or like even me as an LR3, I just like to go and mindlessly kill stuff that isn't too difficult and pick up some resources on the way, and maybe have a chit chat with somebody on my Discord chat or a friend of mine in real life and not have to think too hard about surviving. So my advice is follow your own path. If you want to go Steel Path or get taxied elsewhere, crack on, do what you like. But if you're newer and you're a bit like, then come here and have a chill out, or come to my Discord and we'll just go and do, you know, a 20 or 30 minute survival and see what we can get you. Might drop, it might not, but you know, it's part of the game, isn't it? And it's all part of the funsies and the loot goblin in us, you know, and we're all here for the loots, right? The shinies. So there you go, a briefish look at a few Loot Goblin Warframes, and more to come on the Loot Goblinness, among other things, my darlings. And if you've got any ideas for a video that you'd like to see content on, please feel free to hit me up in the comments or come to my Discord and have a little chitty chat. I'm always looking for ideas, and there are other games being played on my channel, and you may have seen scrolling or popping in on the screen some random names, and those are my beloved, beautiful YouTube members, the Fearless and Wolf Barbarians, people paying actual real life money to get early access to my games, which is so very generous of them. It literally blows my mind. So thank you to you guys, and also thank you to my Discordians. That place is growing. And thanks to anybody who has liked, commented and subbed to my channel, on my videos, and watched any of my other videos. I've done a few playthroughs now and it's continuing to grow, and I've got some more stuff planned for the new year. If I could do it all now, I freaking would, but for now we need to concentrate on some Warframe 1999 among other things in the game. And our newer joiners, like, we want to get you through the game and have fun whilst doing it. So my darlings, thank you so much for being here. I really do hope to see you again in the next one, no matter what that may be. But in the meantime, you take care now, and goodbye.